Hey, what's going on guys? And in this JavaScript video tutorial, we're going to be taking an introduction at regular expressions in JavaScript. So in the previous couple of videos, we've been going through validations in JavaScript, and this is like taking this validations thing to the next level because regular expressions are used to perform powerful pattern matching, search and replace functions on text. So what do I mean by this? So in real world scenarios, when you are performing some validations, that is, let's say you're having a big form and you want certain text to be in a particular pattern. Okay, let's say you're taking username, and for a particular company, the username starts from E00. Okay, so let's say the username is something like E00 and then the actual name. Okay, so let's say E00 Tanmay, and let's say software developer or something like that. You have unique identities, but let's say the standard of the company is to start with E00 or E01, depending upon if you're a manager or if you're a tester or a developer, and so on and so forth. So every company has their own conventions being followed, right? So this was just an example. In other example, let's say you're performing validations on email. So an email has few things which is very common, that is the @ sign. We have a dot, after which you have .com or .in or .net and so on and so forth. So that @ sign, some text before the @ sign and after the @ sign is compulsory, and then you also have that dot which is compulsory, right? So these are patterns which are compulsorily required, and this is where regular expressions come into picture. And by the way, regular expressions are pretty much available in almost all programming languages and they perform the same. So the expression definition is more or less the same in almost all the programming languages. And a quick disclaimer before we move ahead in this series: regular expressions is a lengthy topic. It's not conceptually complex, but there are different variations and different varieties of regular expressions that you can apply. So in fact, regular expressions can actually be a separate series on JavaScript, like having 10 to 15 videos separately. So of course, we're not going to get into that depth, but once we brush off with the basics, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to experiment yourself and understand what regular expressions are and apply it yourself. Okay, so coming back to our today's video, as I mentioned, regular expressions are used to perform powerful pattern matching, search and replace functions, and to perform validations. Okay, so in this example, what we're going to do is we're going to be inputting a username, and as I mentioned, we're going to be checking for some pattern. So let's say the pattern is E00 and then whatever the number is. If we have E00, only then it is going to be a valid username, otherwise we're going to be throwing an error. So this is the functionality that we are going to do using regular expressions. So before we start off with the coding, I would want to show you an online website wherein you can check for the regular expressions. Okay, so this is that website which is known as regex101.com. I will drop the link in the video description if you can't see this. But then this is how the user interface looks like, and make sure you have selected JavaScript because we are working with JavaScript. So what this website does is you can check with a regular expression and you can type in the string, and then it will check whether the string is having that particular expression in it or not. So you can check for patterns. So this is where you put in the expression. So let's say our expression is E00, right? So we are looking for E00 in our text. So now let me type in my name. I'm saying Tanmay, and if you see no match found, and in the match information you are getting, your regular expression does not match the subject string. Okay. Also, by the way, make sure in this flags section you have nothing selected as of now. I will explain to you what these things are. Now let's go ahead and type in E00 dash. So as you can see, this is highlighted in blue, and there you go. You can see we have one match found, right? Let's say we have one more thing in the string E002, and this is Naveen. So right now it's not detecting, and that is because our flags are off. So if I select global, you can see both of them are detected now. So what is happening is in the entire string, we are looking for E00. So wherever we get E00, we are highlighting it, and this time we have two matches in this string, right? Now by default, regular expressions are case sensitive, which means that capital E00 is not equal to small e00. You can see now it is not highlighted, right? So for that you have to turn on one more flag which is insensitive, so case insensitive flag, and this global flag means don't return after first match, which means that if you've turned it on, it will detect multiple patterns of the same type. And let's turn on the case insensitive flag. So now that the case insensitive flag is turned on, that is the I flag, even the small e is being identified as capital E. So now it is not looking at the case of the letters. So these are those flags, and this was just a website wherein you can check for different regular expressions And this is a very basic regular expression that we've typed in, since this is the very first video. As I mentioned, there is a lot of variety and variations that you can go ahead with for regular expressions, and things can get very complex. For starters, this website is pretty good. You can check it out. But now if you're wondering how to go back and code this, let's move on to the JavaScript code and let's try to implement this functionality. Okay, so in our code, as I mentioned, we are going to be checking for this E00 pattern for this video because this is a very first video. So let me just cut this out first. And in our form tag, we have an input type. We've given the ID of uname. So this is that text box with the placeholder. We have a label whose ID is LBL user and color is red, but the visibility right now is hidden. So if I say visible, you can see this is that label which we want to show when we have an invalid username, right? So that's why I've kept it hidden as of now. So that's why you cannot see it. This is the text inside it. And then we have a button. It's a basic button. It is not a submit type button. It's a normal button on which when we click on it, we are calling a validate function, which we still have to create, wherein we'll perform the regular expressions and validations. So let's go ahead and create this validate function. So I'm going to say function validate. So this is something that we've been doing for long in the previous videos also, creating functions and calling the functions on the events. So the first thing, we want to store the text that we take in this username inside a variable. So I'm going to say var username equal to, again, to access that text box, we are going to use document.getElementById method because we've given unique ID to the text box and the unique ID is uname. So this is that ID. And we're going to say dot value to access the value which is inside the text box. Okay. Now we're going to be creating a regular expression variable or object. Now regular expressions in JavaScript are again taken as objects because they have methods associated with them. So remember this one thing, regular expressions are treated as objects in JavaScript. So I'm going to say var regex. So this is the name of the object. And the way you can create regular expressions are two different ways. So the first one is the literal way. So you have to give // and inside the // that is in between them, you have to pass the expression that you want to test for. So our expression here is E00, right? So we are going to be checking for this pattern E00 in any string. And that string is going to be coming from this text box, which is going to be stored in this username variable, right? So now in order to check if the username variable holds this E00 string pattern, we have to use if else control statements because we are going to be checking, and whenever you perform a checking or a conditional checking, you use if else control statements, right? So I'm going to say if. Now as I mentioned, since regular expressions are treated as objects, this regex is an object which has some methods inbuilt. So we are going to be using the test method. So this is regex.test, and inside the test we are going to be passing this username variable which holds text which is coming from this text box. Okay. So what I'm going to say is, I'm going to say if regex.test username, and I'm going to keep it as it is. Now the reason why I'm going to keep it as it is and not equate to anything is because this test method returns a boolean value. So you can see when you hover on it, at the end you can see boolean, right? So what this test method is doing is, it will take this username and this username is going to hold a string value. Let's say the username is ABCDEFG. Okay. Right now this is something like a random text that I've entered. So this string is going to be stored in this username variable. Now what this regex.test is going to do is, it's going to take this username and check inside this text, do we have this E00 pattern? So as of now you don't have it, right? So if we don't have this pattern, it is going to return false. If we have this pattern, it is going to return true. So let's say I enter E00-Tanmay. So in this case we have E00 over here. So this is where it is going to return true. And we know that whenever the condition is true in the if block will be executed. So here I can say alert valid username, and in the else block what I can do is I can say alert invalid username. So I hope you are getting up until now what we are doing. If not, let's try to again rerun the entire thing and you'll get it very well. So right now what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to test it out. I'm going to say Tanmay and let's try to submit this. So there you go, you can see invalid username is the output because in Tanmay we do not have a string which is something like E00. Okay, so we do not have this pattern. So we are looking for this pattern. Now let's say we type in E00 dash, and when we submit, you can see we are getting valid username. So this means that our pattern matching is working and our regular expressions are working perfectly fine. So one last thing that was remaining is we just want to make this label visible whenever there is an invalid username. So to do that, we just have to access that label using document.getElementById. Inside the ID, we pass in the ID of the label, which is LBL user, which you can see over here. We're going to be accessing the style. I'm going to say dot visibility and I'm going to say visible. So let's try to enter an invalid thing. Let's try to submit this. You get invalid username, and there you go. You can see now we have the text visible in the label, which is invalid username. Okay. Now talking about those global and case insensitive flags, right now we don't have anything over here in the regex object, and to do that you just pass in I over here, and now this is case insensitive. So if I mention E00 and E is in small case and I say E00 dash Tanmay, and if I submit, it is still gonna give valid username. But if I remove this I and now submit it again, E00 dash Tanmay, there you go, we are getting invalid username because we have removed that flag. Okay. And do note that the entire string or entire pattern E00 needs to be there in the output. So if I just erase 10 out, even this is invalid. Okay. So if I say E and single 0, again this is invalid. If I only say E, again this is invalid. So it means that these three things have to be present. So this was a very basic representation of regular expressions. There are different variations and varieties and options which you can go ahead with regular expressions. So probably in the next video we'll see a little bit of more variations also, so that we better understand this regular expressions. Okay, so that's it for this video guys. I'm gonna wrap it up over here, otherwise this video will go very long, and we'll continue on regular expressions a little bit more in the next video. So thanks for watching guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, do share it with your friends, let me know in the comments how this video was, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.